Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius from Anucauskas. Today is the 16th of July 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, some of the charts that we looked at this morning as well. So, but before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, so now then, just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel, which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of the videos that we produce on a daily basis. And also just a quick mentioning of our JFD research page here, where you can go in and have a look at different analysis that we do on a daily basis, and I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here. So, but for now, let's quickly jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the S&P 500. Now, looking at this one, you can see that it continues to push higher. Yesterday, it made another all-time high where it reached this little area right here. And let me just quickly put this one on the chart. This is what I'm talking about. It was around the 3,017-18 zone, approximately around there, from which it kind of reversed and pushed back down. Looking at the cash index right now, it is currently balancing around its yesterday's closing price here, but basically there won't be any surprise gaps either to the upside or to the downside, but still we're going to be very careful on this one because, of course, on the shorter time frame, it is quite overbought, and everybody's expecting this one maybe to correct at some point. But for now, it's a bit of a difficult one because we're going to still keep a close eye on this little tentative upside support line here. So this is what we're going to be looking at here from the very short-term perspective. In a way, if this line gets a nice good break, then yep, we will aim for slightly lower areas initially, just for that better confirmation of the downside. Ideally, we would like to see maybe a drop below this little area near the 2,988 zone. Of course, this would also place the index below the psychological 3,000 level, and if it travels below the 3,000, then yep, the next target is the 2,988 zone, so the one that I just mentioned. But just for that better confirmation, a drop below this in a way could open the path towards these slightly lower areas. And let me just kind of put an arrow here basically to show what I'm talking about, because at the same time, if we see a drop below this level here, the price would fall below the 21 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and this in a way could be seen as at least a short-term bearish scenario here. So for now, until it's kind of trading above this upside line, we're gonna of course target the upside. The only thing is that just because it's currently at its all-time highs, I mean, ideally we would wait for a push above the this area, this yesterday's high near the 3,018 zone. So a nice good pop above this would confirm a forthcoming higher high here, and we could see this one maybe pushing further to the upside. But for now, we're just going to be very careful and keep an eye on these two levels. Brent Oil. Now, Brent Oil is having a great time right now, let's put it that way. Somewhat of a great time, because even though it is kind of drifting somewhat a little bit to the downside here, and has been doing that since from around the 11th of July, but still it remains above this tentative upside support line, which we'll see if it continues to hold. If it does, then yep, we could see another push higher. But the only thing is now at this point, what you could do is of course also keep an eye on some of these key resistance areas, like for example this one, the 67.46, 45 area, approximately around there. A nice good push above this in a way could open the path towards higher levels like the 68 zone, which 68.05, 06, which previously acted as a good area of support here back on the 29th of May. But if that fails to withhold, yep, a further push higher towards the 69.93 level could be possible as well. So that's why, guys, for now, yep, it is on one hand, it is kind of still trading above this upside line, which is a nice good positive sign. But just for that better confirmation, a push above this level here would be ideal in order to kind of consider further moves higher. In terms of the downside, well, I mean, there are there's a bunch of levels here, a bunch of support levels that in a way we would need to see getting broken first before kind of aiming lower. Initially, of course, we need to see this break below this upside support line, and then ideally a drop below initially the 65.50 zone. This in a way could also maybe place the price below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, but then just for that better confirmation, a drop below the 65.12, 15, something like that area could in a way open the path back towards the area around the 63.74, 75, or even lower. So that's why for now we're going to be very careful and going to continue watching this upside support line, and if it has a nice rebound from it, then yep, we will keep an eye on this 67.46 zone, so which could in a way, a break of which could open the path towards higher levels. Jumping into a few pairs now, the USDJPY. Basically with this one, I just wanted to show you, this was something that we've posted here on our TradingView account, and basically it was still stuck in here in between these two levels. And what I've mentioned here is that we need to see a clear break either through the upper side here or the lower side in order to kind of consider further directional moves. So as you can see, for now, this is what's happening. We're having a nice break here through this downside resistance line and a break above this 108.10 level. If the pair manages to stay here and closes the daily candle above this level, above this 108.10, then in a way it increases the chances to push further up here. At least initially we will target the 200 EMA, but if that fails to withhold, there is another good potential area of resistance near the 108.62 zone, which as you can see previously acted as a good area of resistance as well. So that's why for now, of course, everything's looking quite bullish right now, but then again, like I said, ideally we need to see a nice good close of a daily candle above this 108.10 level before we could aim for further higher levels. In terms of the downside, it's pretty straightforward. We need to break below this, the 107.80, before kind of aiming for slightly lower areas. So for now, keep your eyes on this one. Of course, this is looking somewhat more bullish than bearish, but let's see how this is going to end up today. EURGBP. Now this one is on fire. I mean, take a look at the weekly chart here, basically. So as you can see, this has been pushing higher for well, since the first kind of week of May, and for quite a while, and now it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is the 11th week that is pushing to the upside. So without any kind of correction here on the weekly charts. Looking at the daily chart, of course, this is pushing above its key area of resistance today, the 0.90 level, the psychological 0.90. It made a nice run to the upside here, but of course now we're going to keep an eye on it, because I mean, looking at the technical picture here on the daily chart, on one hand you can see that it's quite overbought here already. I mean, it's hitting the upper bound of the Bollinger Band, so I mean, at some point we may see maybe a small correction, but to be honest with this one, it's so tricky that it keeps on rising, it keeps on pushing higher. So that's why we're going to be very careful with this one. I mean, at one hand, yes, it did push to the upside. It managed to break the R2. In a way, the next potential target here could be the R3, but the R3 is around the 0.9068 zone, so that's quite a big of a jump here for EURGBP. So in a way, probably what we could target here today is around maybe the 0.9050. If it reaches that, then I mean, then we'll take it from there, see what it wants to do. Maybe we will get this small little correction here to the downside, but for now, I mean, looking at this is a bit insane, I would say. I mean, it is kind of continues to push higher. Let's say, just bear with me, let me put a highlighted area here just for our future reference. Basically, this is what I wanted to mark very quickly. So the psychological 0.90 level. So basically, this is kind of this has opened now the path towards higher levels. Even if we see a small retracement back down here, as long as it kind of remains above this 0.90 level, we will continue aiming for higher levels. If this drops below the 0.90 level, maybe the bears might get lucky, and maybe we could see this one sliding a little bit to the downside. But to be honest, there are a bunch of obstacles here underneath that it would need, the pair would need to overcome before kind of aiming further down. So in a way, one of the important levels could be around here near the 0.8955 zone, something like that, approximately around there, guys. A drop below this then could potentially open the path towards these lower areas, but for now it's quite far away from there. So let's continue observing the upside here, and let's see where it can find a good area of resistance in order to kind of see this one correcting slightly to the downside. GBPUSD, I mean, that's straightforward. Basically, I mean, as you can see, as you probably noticed by the EURGBP, I mean, this is selling off hard. And what's more interesting here is that I've talked about this one this morning, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this level right here, the 1.2440, because a drop below this kind of this is now basically putting GBPUSD into negative territory for the year, because this has been the lowest point of this year. This was reached on and on the 2nd of January during that little flash, well, I wouldn't say little, but during that flash crash that we had. So now you can see that the pair is below that. The big question here is going to be very interesting to see if it actually manages to stay here below. If the daily candle closes below this 1.2440, then, well, it increases the chances for this pair to drift further down here. Of course, don't get me wrong, and when looking at even this 4-hour chart, it is quite oversold. We could see maybe a small correction back to the upside, and if this level continues to hold the rate down, the 1.2440, this time, because previously it acted as a good support. Now, if this is going to act as a strong area of resistance, then, well, I mean, there could be more downside to come in the upcoming days. And the last pair for this session is euro dollar. So this one is also selling off. You can see that, of course, not as drastically as GBPUSD, but still it broke below this 1.1244 level. I talked about this morning about this level, and basically what I was saying, that to keep an eye on this upside support line, the short-term tentative upside support line that in a way could support the rate from falling further. And of course, for now, all eyes are on this. I mean, we could see this one sliding a little bit further down here, but if it holds, then we could see a nice rebound and a push back up here. But to be honest, if it fails, what we're going to do here is now we're going to monitor this 1.1190 level. A drop below this could in a way open the path to a slightly lower area, so keep your eyes on this one. If this suddenly reverses and pushes back above the 1.1244, now this is going to be our little neutral territory, because for us to get comfortable with the upside, we need to see that nice good push above the 1.1275 level. So I've mentioned this before in my previous videos, so let's see if this is going to play out like that. But for now, it's looking more bearish than bullish, and but again, we're going to be very careful near this upside support line. If it breaks and we see the daily candle closing below this, then in a way, yep, we will keep an eye on this 1.1190. but if that fails, then this could turn out to be ugly for Euro USD. Okay guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me tomorrow morning, as always, in my Traders Espresso, and that's 6 o'clock GMT time. For now, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.